There is this undeniable, almost magnetic romance to the idea of owning a restaurant.
Oh, absolutely.
Like you walk into a bustling dining room on a Friday night, the ambient lighting is just perfect. You hear the clinking of wine glasses.
The hum of conversation.
Yes, exactly. And the smell of, garlic and reduction sauces in the air, it just feels electric.
It does. I mean, it feels less like running a commercial enterprise and more like hosting this incredibly successful, vibrant dinner party every single night.
Right.
The hospitality industry sells an experience. And, well, prospective buyers are often the first ones to buy into that illusion.
And that intoxicating feeling is precisely what we are going to dismantle today. So welcome to today's deep dive.
Glad to be here.
We are looking at a stack of due diligence materials surrounding Australian restaurant acquisitions, and our mission for you, the listener, is to basically act as a bucket of cold water.
A much-needed bucket of cold water, honestly.
Yeah, we are going to strip away the romance. We're going to learn how to critically evaluate a hospitality business, spot the hidden red flags that just look like minor quirks, and, understand the hard mechanics of a buyout.
Because the biggest trap you can fall into is falling in love with the venue, the lighting, the menu, the vibe before you actually investigate the underlying business.
Totally.
Buyers frequently walk into a beautiful space, taste a fantastic meal, and their critical thinking just, poof, evaporates.
Yeah.
They end up buying an emotion, not a balance sheet. So the goal here is to shift your mindset from a consumer to an auditor.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we get into the grim reality of audits, we should probably address why you would even want to buy an existing restaurant instead of just starting your own dream cafe from scratch.
Right, which is what everyone always thinks they want to do.
Exactly. But starting from scratch takes a massive investment before you ever see a single dime of revenue. You're paying for the architectural build-out, the council permits.
Marketing, initial inventory.
Right, all while $0 are coming in. But buying an existing one offers immediate cash flow. You inherit trained staff, established operational systems, commercial kitchen equipment that's already plugged in,
And an existing customer base.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds like a turnkey dream.
It really does.
And it is a dream scenario, provided you know exactly what you are taking on. Because, look, the restaurant industry is notoriously unforgiving.
Yeah.
Yes, a well-run venue with loyal customers can generate significant wealth. But it's an industry currently plagued by rising food costs, severe staffing shortages, shifting consumer trends.
So true.
When you buy a restaurant, you aren't just buying the cash flow. You are inheriting the underlying structural health and the hidden liabilities of that specific business.
Which means before we even open a single spreadsheet or look at a bank statement, we have to look at the human element.
Exactly.
We need to look at the facade versus the foundation.
Wow.
So first question, why are the keys being handed over in the first place?
Well, there's often a massive disconnect between the owner's public narrative, the private reality of the business.
Right.
You sit down with the seller and ask why they are leaving. Now, there are plenty of legitimate life transition reasons. An owner might genuinely be retiring to the coast.
Sure.
They might be relocating, facing a sudden health issue, dealing with a messy partnership dispute, or maybe they just have a completely different business opportunity.
The totally understandable life happens reasons, because nobody is going to look you in the eye across the table and say, I'm selling because my profit margins have collapsed and a massive competitor is opening across the street next month.
No, never.
They're going to say, I want to spend more time with my family.
Exactly, which is why you never rely solely on the seller's explanation. You have to verify the context independently.
How so?
Well, the seller might claim they are tired of the daily grind, but a forensic look at the local city council plans reveals a massive 2-year roadwork project starting next month that will eliminate all street parking in front of the venue. Yeah, or perhaps their lease is up for renewal and the landlord is demanding a 40% rent increase that will completely wipe out their profit margin. You are looking for the hidden pressures pushing them out the door.
That makes a lot of sense. And another part of that surface level facade is assessing customer demand. The materials we are looking at issue a very clear warning. Do not assume a busy restaurant is a profitable restaurant.
Right. What's fascinating here is that we are conditioned as consumers to see a line out the door and immediately think, wow, they're printing money.
Oh, totally.
But volume does not inherently equal profit.
I was actually thinking about this, and buying a restaurant based on a really busy Saturday night service is kind of like, well, it's like marrying someone based on how they act on a tropical vacation.
That is a perfect analogy.
Right. Of course, they seem fun and relaxed when they are drinking margaritas at noon, but how are they on a Tuesday morning when the property taxes are due? If you just visit the restaurant on a Saturday night, you are seeing the absolute best case scenario, the highlight reel. But wait, logistically, how does a buyer actually observe a Tuesday lunch without looking like a stalker or, tipping off the staff that the place is being sold? Because usually these sales are highly confidential.
Yeah, you don't sit in the corner booth with binoculars for a week.
Right. Good to know.
You gather data, you look at the point of sale timestamps and demand a breakdown of revenue by day and by hour.
Okay.
You check the digital footprint. When are people actually leaving reviews? You study the local demographics. Is the area primarily corporate offices that empty out by 5 p.m., making dinner service a complete ghost town?
I see.
A crowded dining room on a Friday night is meaningless if they're heavily discounting meals on Groupon just to get bodies in seats, or if their food costs are completely out of control. You are looking for sustainable, verifiable demand, not just a temporary popularity contest.
So once we bypass the owner's narrative and we look past the crowded dining room, we demand the hard proof. We transition into the financial autopsy.
This is where the romance officially dies and the mechanics take over.
Yep.
Financial due diligence is the absolute core of the acquisition.
And you don't just want last month's numbers. You need at least 3 years of data to see the whole picture. We are talking profit and loss statements, BAS statements, which, by the way, for you listening outside of Australia, BAS just means business activity statements submitted to the tax office.
Right.
You also need tax returns, payroll reports, point of sale system data, and actual bank statements. And you want to cross-reference everything.
You cross-reference because you're looking for anomalies and trends. Like, is the revenue actually growing? Or has it been consistently declining year over year?
Right.
If sales are highly seasonal, say, a beachside cafe, how deep are the financial valleys during the winter off-season? Do they actually have the cash reserves to survive July and August?
That's a great point.
A consistent, multi-year decline in top-line revenue points to dapper operational rot, regardless of how charming the seller is. But even more critical than top-line revenue is the gross profit margin.
Okay.
Restaurants operate on incredibly tight margins, and raw ingredients are a massive variable.
So if you compare their food cost percentages against industry benchmarks and find their costs are unusually high, what does that actually mean mechanically? Like, it's not just bad luck with the price of tomatoes, right?
No, not at all. High food costs indicate specific operational failures.
Like what?
It means they have poor purchasing practices and aren't negotiating with their suppliers. Or it means they have inefficient menu pricing.
How so?
Well, perhaps the cost of premium beef doubled over the last year, but the owner was too afraid to raise the price of the steak on the menu, so they are essentially subsidizing the customer's meal.
Wow, okay.
It could also indicate massive kitchen waste because the chefs aren't measuring ingredients, or very commonly, it indicates outright thefts by the staff. Yeah. If the raw ingredients cost too much relative to the menu price, the business bleeds out before you even pay the rent.
Okay, let's talk about the bottom line, the net profit. Because this gets highly complex with something called owner add-backs. In privately held businesses, owners often hide personal expenses within the business to artificially reduce their taxable income.
It is a standard, albeit murky, practice. When you look at the raw tax returns, the business might look like it barely breaks even.
Okay, let me push back on this a bit. If owners are constantly muddying the waters, running their own personal expenses through the business to dodge taxes, doesn't calculating the true profitability just become a giant guessing game?
It definitely can be.
Like, how can you possibly trust the numbers if the seller is essentially admitting they manipulated them for the tax office?
Well, it is a dangerous guessing game if you try to do it yourself, which is why engaging a specialized accountant or a forensic business broker is just non-negotiable. They know how to scrub the general ledger. The mechanism works like this. Let's say the tax return shows a net profit of $50,000.
Okay.
But the accountant finds the owner has been running a $20,000 personal car lease and $10,000 of family vacations through the business accounts.
Sneaky.
Very. So the accountant takes that $30,000 of personal spending and adds it back to the reported profit. The true earning power of the business, the adjusted net profit, is actually $80,000.
So you basically reconstruct the financial reality of the business as if it were being run cleanly?
Precisely. However, there's a hard line here regarding what can be added back. One of the biggest red flags in hospitality acquisitions is phantom cash.
Phantom cash.
Yeah, if an owner tells you, hey, the books show we make 80 grand, but we actually take another 20 grand a month in cash that we don't declare to the tax office, you have to walk away.
Wait, really? So you have to completely ignore this phantom cash, even if you suspect the owner is telling the truth and the till really is full of cash at the end of the night?
Absolutely. You cannot base a legal multi-$100,000 valuation on illegal bookkeeping.
That makes total sense.
You only pay for what can be proven on paper. If the seller didn't want to pay taxes on that cash, they don't get to sell the value of that cash to you.
Right. And understanding that true verifiable profit is crucial because of how these businesses are valued.
Exactly.
Restaurants are generally valued on a multiple of those adjusted earnings. So if an accountant determines the adjusted profit is $100,000 and the industry standard multiple for that specific type of cafe is 2.5, the business is worth $250,000.
Spot on.
But if you get the adjusted earnings wrong, that multiplier effect works against you. You are amplifying your mistake by a factor of 2 or 3.
That is the financial trap. But let's say the finances are bulletproof. The adjusted earnings are accurate, the food costs are perfectly in line with industry benchmarks, and there is absolutely zero phantom cash.
Okay, best case scenario.
You still don't have a business if you don't control the physical space you operate in, which is why we have to look at the structural foundation, leases and labor.
Yeah, and here's where it gets really interesting. Buying a highly profitable restaurant with only 1 year left on its lease is basically like buying a winning lottery ticket that expires tomorrow.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter how much money the venue is printing today if the landlord can just kick you out or double your rent in 12 months. You've essentially bought yourself a high-stress job for a year, and then you have nothing to show for it.
Because a restaurant is inextricably tied to its physical location. You cannot just pick up a commercial kitchen, the grease traps, the specialized ventilation, the custom cool rooms, and move it down the street cheaply.
No, definitely not.
The fit-out costs are sunk into that specific building. Therefore, the lease is often the single most valuable asset of the entire business. Not the brand name, not the ovens. The lease.
So what specifically are we looking for when we audit that lease?
You are looking for longevity and favorable terms. Major red flags include having less than 2 years remaining on the lease with no written option to renew.
Okay.
You are also looking out for demolition clauses where the landlord retains the right to kick you out if they decide to bulldoze the building and put up apartments.
Oh, wow. I wouldn't have even thought of that.
Yeah, and crucially, you have to investigate the assignment conditions. Is the landlord actually legally obligated to transfer the lease to you, the new buyer?
Wait, they might not let you take it over.
Sometimes landlords use a change of ownership as an excuse to renegotiate the entire lease at a much higher rate. If the landlord refuses to assign the lease on the current terms, the deal is dead.
Let's talk about the people inside that building. Because when you buy the business, you aren't just buying the tables and the inventory. You are taking on heavy employment obligations.
Massive obligations.
Right. And in Australia, that means you have to be absolutely certain the business is compliant with the award system, which dictates the legal minimum wages, penalty rates for weekends, and working conditions.
The labor audit is just as critical as the financial audit. You have to review the rosters, the payroll records, outstanding leave entitlements, and superannuation obligations.
Yeah.
If you are buying the corporate entity rather than just the assets, you inherit the sins of the past. If the previous owner wasn't paying their staff's retirement funds, their superannuation correctly, the government will come after you for that massive hidden liability the moment you take over.
That's terrifying. And beyond the legal liabilities, there are operational warning signs, right? Like high staff turnover isn't just annoying. It is a glaring indicator of a toxic workplace culture or incompetent management.
Precisely.
But there is another layer to this labor risk. Think about what happens if the entire reputation of the restaurant, the menu design, and the efficiency of the kitchen rests entirely on the shoulders of one brilliant head chef.
That is called key person risk.
Right.
If that chef decides they don't like you and resigns the day after your settlement clears, the value of the business plummets instantly.
Because the food changes.
Exactly. The regulars stop coming because the food changed. You haven't bought a sustainable system. You've bought a fragile dependency on one person who isn't you.
And while we are talking about structural risks, Imagine buying a thriving cafe where the outdoor seating generates 40% of your daily revenue.
Oh, this happens all the time.
Right. And on day 2 of your ownership, a city council inspector walks up and shuts the patio down because the previous owner never actually got the legal permits for those tables.
Yep.
So you have to verify all the operating licenses, food business registration, food safety compliance, liquor licenses, fire safety certificates. You are verifying that the business is legally allowed to generate the money it claims to be generating.
Every unverified assumption is a potential point of failure.
So the lease is secure, the staff is paid legally, the council permits are flawless. Now we get to inspect the actual machinery, both physical and digital, that allows the restaurant to function day to day. The engine room. Let's start with the physical assets. Commercial ovens, walk-in freezers, espresso machines, POS systems. You have to ask, is this equipment actually owned by the business?
Because it is extremely common in the hospitality sector for major expensive equipment to be leased or under a finance agreement.
Oh, true.
You need to check the legal title of the equipment. The mechanism here is simple but brutal. You could hand over $500,000 to the seller for the business, walk in on Monday morning, and a finance company knocks on the door to repossess your commercial ovens. Because the previous owner stopped making the monthly finance payments, and the bank technically still owns them.
That would be a nightmare. You also need the maintenance records, right? Like if they haven't serviced the main walk-in freezer in 5 years, you are about to inherit a massive, expensive breakdown that will ruin thousands of dollars of inventory.
Without a doubt.
And a restaurant doesn't exist in a vacuum. It relies on its suppliers. Are the food and beverage prices locked into contracts, and are those contracts transferable to you?
You are basically looking for a single point of failure in the supply chain.
Right.
If a business is heavily dependent on a single niche supplier for their core ingredients, you carry extreme risk. If that supplier goes out of business or decides to hike their prices by 20%, your business grinds to a halt.
Okay, so what does this all mean when we pivot to the digital assets? Because this reflects a massive shift in how these businesses are valued today. We are talking about website traffic, Google business profiles, social media accounts, and customer email databases.
Yeah, huge shift.
It feels like an engaged email database of 10,000 local customers, or a flawless 5-star Google review profile with 1,000 legitimate reviews might actually be worth more to a buyer today than a brand new physical commercial freezer.
It absolutely is worth more.
Yeah.
Valuation in the modern hospitality industry isn't just about the physical location or the tangible stainless steel assets anymore.
Yeah.
It is heavily weighted toward brand reputation, digital real estate, and operational systems. I mean, an oven can be replaced in a few hours if it breaks. Earning back a terrible online reputation takes years of slow, painful work. Strong digital assets represent predictable, systematic revenue. You can press a button, send an email to 10,000 locals about a Tuesday night wine pairing event, and fill the dining room on your slowest night. That is real power.
It is a completely different way of looking at what makes a restaurant valuable. So to bring it all together for you, the listener, buying a restaurant can absolutely be an incredibly rewarding investment that generates real long-term wealth.
It definitely can.
But success requires you to focus on the cold, hard facts and entirely ignore your emotions. You cannot be seduced by the ambient lighting or a great plate of pasta.
You have to act as an investigator.
You must verify every single line of the financials. You must heavily scrutinize the lease because it dictates your survival.
Right.
You have to audit the staff to ensure legal compliance and protect against hidden liabilities. And you must verify that the physical and digital equipment is actually yours to keep. Success doesn't rely on your passion for food. It relies on deep, professional, unemotional due diligence to reveal the true value and expose the trapdoors.
And you really need to engage professionals, business brokers, specialized accountants, commercial lawyers to help you navigate the minefield. It is entirely about protecting your capital and ensuring the dream you are buying doesn't become a financial nightmare.
Completely.
And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Okay, let's hear it.
We touched on the idea that a restaurant with low owner dependence, meaning the venue runs perfectly well on its own systems, without the owner needing to be in the kitchen or on the floor every single night, attracts a much higher valuation multiple.
Right, because it's systematic.
Exactly. It makes the business safer, more scalable, and significantly easier to sell. But think about how contrary that is to the current culture of the hospitality industry.
That's true.
We constantly idolize the celebrity chef model. We celebrate venues where the restaurant's entire identity, its marketing, and its appeal are completely wrapped up in the unique genius, the big personality, and the physical presence of one specific owner-operator.
Yeah, everyone wants to be the face of their restaurant.
But if low owner dependence is what actually creates transferable financial value, then this highly popular ego-driven model might actually be building a business that is almost impossible to sell later.
Wow.
Which raises a critical question for anyone entering this industry. If you build a restaurant purely around your own personality and presence, are you building a lasting, valuable legacy, or are you just building a very beautiful, very expensive trap?